Today's chalice lighting comes from Adrienne Marie Brown. You are a miracle walking. I greet you with wonder in a world which seeks to own your joy and your imagination. You have chosen to be free every day as a spiritual practice. I can never know the struggles you went through to get here, but I know you have swum upstream, and at times it has been lonely. I want you to know I honor the choices you made in solitude, and I honor the work you have done to belong. I honor your commitment to that which is larger than yourself and your journey to love the particular container of your life that is you. You are enough. Your work is enough. You are needed. Your work is sacred. You are here, and I am grateful.
It is a powerful thing to say welcome. Welcome, truly, to this place that has the power to change you, to this place that has the potential to be changed by you. Welcome to this place. If it is your first time or your 50th year with River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation, welcome this Sunday morning to the beginning of a new month and a new theme and a new exploration of what it means to widen the circle of our concern. A radiating circle from the concern for the safety and integrity of our own hearts to the concern for the circle of those nearest and dearest us, and extending always outward to a compassion that has the potential to hold and heal the world. And yet we know, even as our theme is widening the circle of concern, we know that no one of us can hold it all alone. We know that we cannot walk on water and juggle at the same time and manage everything in perfect grace. And we know that the miracles which are asked of us are miracles of presence, showing up and saying welcome, committing once again to being each other's people. As the great teacher Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, the miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth, dwelling deeply in the present moment, feeling fully alive. And so as we are blessed by the deep and prophetic voice of Thich Nhat Hanh this morning in our prophetic voices time, I invite us all simply to be present in this moment, in this place, each welcomed, each included, each invited to feel just a little more fully alive.
Excerpts from 10 Love Letters to the Earth by Thich Nhat Hanh. Dear Mother, wherever there is soil, water, rock, or air, You are there, nourishing me and giving me life. You are present in every cell of my body. My physical body is your physical body, and just as the sun and stars are present in you, they are also present in me. I was born from you, and you are always present, offering me everything I need for my nourishment and growth. I promise to be aware that your health and well-being is my own health and well-being. I know I need to keep this awareness alive in me for us both to be peaceful, happy, healthy, and strong. Sometimes I forget, lost in the confusion and worries of daily life, I forget that my body is your body, and sometimes even forget that I have a body at all. Dear Mother, my deep wish is to wake up to the miracle of life. I promise to train myself to be present for myself, my life, and for you in every moment. I know that my true presence is the best gift I can offer you, the one I love. Dear Mother, each time I sit in stillness on your earth, I will be aware that because you are in me, I can embody your wonderful qualities of solidarity, perseverance, patience, and forbearance, of depth, endurance, and stability, of great courage, non-fear, and inexhaustible creativity. I vow to practice wholeheartedly to realize these qualities, knowing that you have already sown these potentials as seeds in the soil of my heart and mind. Dear Mother, you wish that we live with more awareness and gratitude, and we can do this by generating the energies of mindfulness, peace, stability, and compassion in our daily lives. Therefore, I make the promise today to return your love and fulfill this wish by investing every step I take on you with love and tenderness. We vow to fulfill your wish and respond to your love. We have deep conviction that generating these wholesome energies, we will help reduce the suffering on earth and continue to alleviate the suffering caused by violence, war, hunger, and illness. In alleviating our suffering, we alleviate yours. I am walking not merely on matter, but on spirit. We know that you want us to live in such a way that in each moment of our daily lives, we can cherish life and generate the energies of mindfulness, peace, solidarity, compassion, and love.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole.
We gather as a community with so many joys and sorrows within our hearts, holding them together in this space this morning. We gather at the beginning of a new month, a new theme, a new year, a new moon. So much to cultivate and grow in that possibility, weaving together the joys and the sorrows of our hearts. We celebrate and we mourn together in community. We celebrate and we mourn together once more what it means to be a people of faith, what it means to gather and support, to nourish and to love. We know that we live in a world that is full of confusion and chaos, where we don't know where to look, we don't know where to turn, we don't know what to believe, we don't know when to react or when to respond. But we know that as we light these candles of joys and sorrows in our hearts, that we have a place we can show up to with the fullness of who we are from day to day and the courage to carry it all. I now invite you into a time and a space of presence and of prayer, a time of groundedness and a time to be centered. Perhaps lowering your gaze, rooting where you are, being firmly rooted to the spot, breathing in deeply and releasing. Feeling those roots from your body go deep into the earth, gathering the energy and the resilience and the stability and the strength of the earth that supports us, pulling that in and letting it fill us up to the crown of our head, and allowing that crown to shine out and draw in the strength of the spirit that surrounds us. The spirit of life, the spirit of our ancestors, the spirit of those right beside us, the spirit of those who've passed, the spirit of those yet to come, the spirit of life that moves within each of us. Firmly rooted and connected, yet reaching for more. And as we are connected and as we are rooted, and as we are reaching towards that spirit of life, we know that in that moment and in that reaching, we are enough. We search for the truth in one another's eyes and one another's hearts. But the only way that we will receive that truth is if we allow ourselves also to be searched. We are enough in this moment. We fill our cup, and when our cups runneth over, we fill one another's cup as well. From the roots of the earth to the heavens around us, we are filled with loving kindness. May we be whole in this moment. May we reach for one another. May we seek the truth in one another. May we arrive fully in our lives. May we arrive fully in the presence of each other. And may we always reach down to our roots. May we be connected. May it always be so. Ashe, and blessed be.
Good morning, River Road. What a blessing to be together. My name is Kirsten Lodel, and I have the honor of serving as your intern minister this year. I began my internship last August focused on our Sunday worship services and have been progressively building out my learning and responsibilities since. And what I've come to understand is that as sacred and important as this weekly coming together is, it is also just a small fraction of what congregational life is and can be. I have been blown away by what a vibrant, active, creative, and caring community River Road is, even in these COVID days. It is the day-to-day congregational work that I've increasingly had the privilege of experiencing and learning about. The participation in small groups, the tending to our beautiful grounds, the loving lay-led pastoral care, the organizing of fundraisers, the service on the board, the delivering of food, the coalition building. It is in these arenas that I've come to understand that we do the daily work of building the beloved community, inside out and outside in. On January 25th, I had the honor of attending the budget planning kickoff meeting with the Finance Committee. And I was struck by what a sacred expression of our values that meeting was, which is not what most people would say about a Finance Committee meeting. But that is what it was. And it began with this chalice lighting, written by our own Gail Henry. Let us come together in fellowship with all of our truths and doubts, our worries and hopes, doing work for the good of our community, and never forgetting that the respect and compassion we feel for each other is the underpinning of our purpose. And from there, I witnessed respectful and supportive interpersonal engagement, the generous sharing of hard-won skills, the priorities committee members lifted up, including centering the well-being of our staff. It was one of countless powerful representations of what congregational life is all about here at River Road. And so we now invite you to get more involved and to help us shape this precious community into an ever more complete expression of our values. We also invite you to get involved as part of your own spiritual care in these times that continue to be so challenging. If you are feeling isolated, uninspired, or depleted, this community can be the antidote. There are so many ways to get involved, and we hope that you are reading your e-weekly, which comes every Thursday, and checking out the website, which, thanks to our wonderful communications director, Natalie, is ever more up-to-date and comprehensive. One thing you can commit to doing right now is to put next Sunday's service on your calendar, February 13th, and to plan to join us at the 10 o'clock hour when we will be kicking off our board-led visioning process, beginning with a shorter worship service and followed by participatory breakout groups on Zoom, where you will have the chance to share your perspectives at the outset of the process on what you envision for River Road's future. Who are we called to be as a community in the coming years? Please join us next Sunday and share your perspectives. Speaking of the board, as was announced in last week's service, we are actively seeking nominations for the Board of Trustees and the Leadership and Nominations Committee, including self-nominations. We ask you to consider if this might be your moment to step into leadership. As Reverend Nancy mentioned last week, we are approaching our annual stewardship campaign season, and it's not too early to begin to think about the level at which you'd like to participate to support River Road in the coming congregational year. If you are new or feeling new, not just to River Road, but to Unitarian Universalism, we invite you to join us for Beginning and Belonging, an introduction to our dynamic, progressive faith tradition that we put on in partnership with our collaborative efforts with Cedar Lane and Fairfax. There are going to be 2 sessions, the afternoons of February 13th and 20th. The bazaar is back for the first time since before COVID. So please save the date of Saturday, June 4th. Start gathering your belongings or organizing the belongings that you've been holding on to for the last 2 years. We also desperately need volunteers to help pull off this enormous endeavor. So please join us as a volunteer and save the date of June 4th. And finally, our Contemporary Issues Forum continues every week. Today at noon, you can join us on Zoom, where we'll be featuring RRUUC member Peter Wilson discussing the growing national security crisis of Russia's encroachment on Ukraine. Giving is another key part of our spiritual practice that gets at the core of who we are, what we believe in, and what we prioritize. And so as we do every week, we now ask you to consider making a donation to the weekly offering that helps keep this beautiful place humming along. You can donate via credit card on our website. You can text to give at the number on your screen. And you can always mail in a check. We now offer you a musical gift, and we hope that as you soak it in, you will reflect on what River Road means to you and consider making a donation. The offering will now be received.
These are the hands
The world is too much with us, late and soon, wrote William Wordsworth on one of his moodier days. The world is too much with us. It really is. It's just too much sometimes. Too much hurting, too much loss, too much complexity, too much expectation, just too much muchness, you know? Through the ages, wise ones have grasped this sentiment, this fundamental human experience of too muchness pulled in too many directions, the heart stretched too far. They have felt the too muchness that we know today, and they have followed it into lives of renunciation and lives of retreat, into lives of service and compassion. There was once a teacher, they say, a great teacher who lived and who worked in the sandy streets of medieval Christian Syria. Now, this teacher, he moved among the people and he shared what wisdom he had, and I imagine what courage he could muster. And in the midst of it all, he did the best work he could. After all, in the midst of it all is the only place where real courage and hard work ever really happens. He did what he could, how he could, when he could in the midst of it all, until ultimately the world became too much for him, and he retreated to a remote cave in the desert to be alone, they said, with God. But the people, they followed him there, as people are wont to do with great teachers. The people followed him there out into his sandy, lonely desert retreat. History calls this man Simeon Stylites, and the image, you see, of Simeon Stylites is an indelible one. Because when the people followed him out into the desert, eager for more and more in the midst of all the muchness, Simeon ultimately chose to leave his desert retreat and come back into the city, into the very center of urban Aleppo. This teacher turned monk returned, and when he returned, he took the moniker Stylites, which means literally pillar sitter, because that is exactly what he did. In order to get even further away from the too muchness of the world, Simeon Stylites built a pillar in the heart of Aleppo, and he literally spent the next 35 years or so of his life alone, sitting and sleeping and eating and praying atop that giant pillar in the middle of the city. Every year, they say the pillar kept getting higher, and the platform that he lived on kept getting smaller. Until finally, the pillar, they say, was 15 meters, 50 feet off the ground, and the platform on top of it on which he lived was 1 fenced meter square. You see, it is really hard to actually get away from it all. You have to keep building your personal little private pillar taller and taller and taller. It is really hard to get away from it all, to find the space to go deeply in one's own silence, whether in the city or in the desert. It is hard to dedicate enough of yourself, enough time and attention to the state of the interior being of one's own heart and the voice of the holy, so that this hurting and dangerous world cannot crowd it all out. But the thing is, nobody at all can live atop a pillar without help. You cannot go all the way inside your own self protectively or through utmost devotion without the rest of the world somehow keeping you going. The stories of Simeon Stylites tell not only of his silent, pure, and beautiful interior vigil at the heart of the holy atop that pillar. The stories also tell of a whole community of worldly monks and villagers who sprung up to live and serve at the base of his pillar. Of boys who climbed that pillar every day to bring him food. of the bucket my man Simeon used to lower certain things down, and of the people who attended to the things inside that bucket, all the large and small acts of service and connection that go into feeding an interior life that touches the sacred and has some fighting chance at bringing some measure of peace. The stories tell of how strangely Simeon's radical expression of being apart and alone was in fact yet another invitation to a new kind of community. The tug of the whole always pulling on the steady beating heart of even the most isolated ones among us. And when you read the stories of the saints who really did renounce it all, who gave it all up, who found the depths of the holy in their own hearts, you find the same thing over and over again. Saints and sages of every faith who choose to live an inward life devoted to the holy, they do so through the care and attentions of faithful people, much like the faithful people in your life. People who don't leave the cares and concerns of the world behind. They provide service to the inward landscape of the ones who go inward seeking peace. In a sense, in this way, the relationship of compassion goes from the outside in. We retreat to isolated spaces when we need to, when we must, when we can. And even then, perhaps especially then, when we are in retreat, others keep us going. UPS delivers the box, which was packed by a person with a job. The groceries arrive at the front step, but only because another human carried them in their own sacred hands. From the outside to the inside. And we can only withdraw. We can only remove ourselves emotionally or literally from our lives or from the world if other people have the courage and the necessity to stay in it. Even when we are under threat, even when everything around us puts us at risk over and over and over again, until the top of a pillar in 1 square meter of safe space feels one hell of a lot more secure than the streets and the systems and the death-dealing forces that seek to hurt us below. Even then, this dangerous and beautiful world conspires from the outside in to keep us going another day. Even, perhaps especially, in times like these when honestly no one knows what to do anymore, do we? We don't know if we should keep listening to the news or just hide in a hole with a bag on our heads. Even then, when we hold all of this confusion, knowing that enlightenment only comes from letting go of the persistent desire to please everyone else around us, even then the outside world sustains us on the pillars of our own making. Even then, we find on the inside an enlightenment that only happens because of outside forces, people, communities, and places that keep us from falling. If you, like me, are overwhelmed sometimes in these days, even angry and enraged, confused, if you do not know what to do anymore, if the click of the switch on the television and the bag over your head and the hiding in a hole are two forces that pull at your heart, if you do not know whether to engage this world or to hide from it, whether to fight the power or fight for your own life or both, we can ask what the great ethical teachers of the ages have for us. After all, we are not the only overwhelmed generation ever to live, are we? We are not the only ones who did not know what to do anymore. We are not the only ones who are paradoxically held together by an outside world that continues to feel so hostile to our inner well-being. There are those, among them the recently deceased Vietnamese Buddhist teacher of teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh, who show us a way to go inside so deeply that we peer through the deep well of our own being until the very bottom drops out and we come out on the other side connected more powerfully than ever to the communities of which we are a part. In this way, deep, deep inwardness becomes a gateway to deep compassion and action the quiet space we fight for and hopefully find in the midst of the storm. It equips us the deeper we can go into it to relate more lovingly, more soulfully, with greater presence and care with that world we sometimes wish we could escape. Thich Nhat Hanh watched his country and his people burn in the Vietnam War. He peered into the deepest well of his own being, into the deepest well of his own grief, and when the bottom dropped out, he found an endless well of compassion, not only for the Vietnamese people themselves, but for the soldiers who marched through the rice fields of his homeland, and the mother of us all, who holds those farmers and the soldiers and the rice fields in the palm of her hand. He emerged in those days from that deep inward place as a founder and a parent of what the world knows today as engaged Buddhism, a tradition in which one of the most deeply interior forms of religious practice the world has ever known, blended with a commitment to serving and savoring the world and changing its systems with compassion and relentlessness and courage. Engaged Buddhism teaches us that the way to service is not from the outside in, the outside world in service to the inner landscape of those of us blessed enough to go seeking peace inside, but instead from the inside out, the inner voice calmed to a point of peacefulness and clarity turns outward to a world in need of care. And so in engaged Buddhism, he bowed his head before Mother Earth. He acknowledged the astonishing interconnection of all things, including the reality that no one just is on a pillar by themselves. We cannot just be on our own. We have no choice but to interbe, he said. We exist in and of the whole, a reality you cannot fully touch unless first you have the space to go deeply into your own silence and come out that other side, ready to serve. Dear Mother, Thich Nhat Hanh wrote in one of the prayers to the earth that you heard in our prophetic voices today. Dear Mother, my deep wish is to wake up to the miracle of life. I promise to train myself to be present for myself, for my life, for you in every moment. I know that my true presence is the best gift that I can give you, the one I love. And that right there, that's the thing. An attentiveness to our own life and our own well-being that opens us up to true presence to each other. This is the way that leads from the inside out. It is the way that has led Thich Nhat Hanh's engaged Buddhist movement to generations of activism and care for the environment. It's the way that leads those practitioners still on the very forefront of movements like hospice and compassionate end-of-life care, prison reform, peace in the most violent places. And here's the good news. The good news is that we all have the power to move both inside and out. Emotionally or literally, we can back away, we can retreat when we need to, we can protect ourselves from the constantly circling threats and demands when we must. We can find peace and holiness and power in the center of our silence. And then we can return from that retreat transformed into instruments of greater compassion. You can take care of yourself when and how you must and come back to the world healthier, more compassionate, as a greater vehicle of hope and purpose. The journey inward brings understanding. The journey outward is an expression of compassion. Reflection is the necessary groundwork for action. Action is the essential fuel for reflection, and so we are called to a lifelong journey up and down that pillar in the middle of the city, a lifelong journey of retreat and engagement, action and reflection, inward time and outward engagement, moving always back and forth so that we can love more deeply be present more fully, and somehow manage to be gentler with ourselves along the way. They say that Simeon Stylites never did come down from his pillar. He died up there, an old man, having sat atop it for almost 4 decades. But before that, before his body was tended by the very same people who gathered around the base of his lonely pillar to attend to him in life, before that, they say in his last years, the people of Aleppo began to see the wisdom that Simeon Stylites had accrued in his long inner journey as a community resource. Still atop his pillar, with messages sent up to him and shouted up to him, he became something of a community mediator. The townspeople would come to him with disputes large and small that required peace and resolution. They would ask him really hard questions about how to govern themselves, how to relate to each other, how to keep doing the work. And Simeon would reach into those deep places within himself for the wisdom that all of them had nurtured in his long silence. He would find clarity there that was born not just through his retreat, but through their good care. And he would offer that clarity back to the community from the inside out to make all of their lives better and more survivable and more peaceful. And so today, this week, when we do not know what to do anymore, when we can't tell if we want to read the paper or hide out atop a pillar for the next 37 years, when we can't tell if we want to do the work or just sit quietly in a place that actually feels safe, may we remember that the call is neither inward nor outward, but a dance of sorts, of action and reflection, isolation and connection, peace and power, all together in our own hands. May we be alone and together. May we be safe and brave and always present to each other, which is the only and truly greatest gift we can give to the ones we love. So deep thoughts don't get thought alone, and beautiful music doesn't get made alone, and meaning in community doesn't get woven alone. We create it for and with each other. And today we are so blessed by everyone who came to create meaning today, sharing the deep gift of their presence out of love. For Jennifer and Linda and Jan and Brock and Cliff and Schwei, our tech team, both of the Leonards, and of course Jeff Hollingsworth, for our whole ministerial crew, and lest we ever forget Mandy Kelly, who sets this space and tends it with love. For everybody at home in the Zoom room, for Natalie and the tech assistants, for the threads of care we weave together to do what we do each and every day. We have gathered in gratitude and we leave in gratitude. And so, may the truth that makes us free, the love that casts out fear, and the hope that never dies. Guide us and those we love and those we do not love forward together till the day spring breaks and all the shadows flee away. Amen.